All right, so we're diving into some serious Premier League drama today. Joe Cole, legend on the pitch, has
Right.
come out and said something pretty wild. He thinks Bruno Fernandes needs to pack his bags and find a new team.
Yeah, he didn't hold back, did he? I mean, whether you're a Man U fan through and through or just love the juicy bits of Premier League action, this take from Cole it's definitely stirred things up.
It has. And for everyone listening, the question we're tackling is pretty straightforward on the surface, but it goes deep. Why would a figure like Joe Cole, someone who's been there, done that, suggest that Bruno Fernandes should be looking for the exit door at Old Trafford? What's the logic behind that kind of statement?
So we've been digging into an article from goal.com to really get into Cole's head here. And what makes this so interesting is that Cole isn't just some talking head, making noise for attention. This is a guy who's lifted trophies, understands the pressure cooker of top-level football, and knows what drives players like Fernandes.
Right, so let's cut to the chase. What's the heart of Joe Cole's argument? Why does he think Fernandes should be on his way out?
The big takeaway, the thing Cole keeps coming back to, is this idea that Bruno Fernandes needs to be at a club that's a serial winner, a club that's lifting trophies year after year. He clearly sees Fernandes as a player who's operating at that level where he should be challenging for the biggest prizes in football consistently.
Okay, so the trophy argument. It's pretty fundamental, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Cole seems to be suggesting something a bit deeper than just a lack of silverware at United. It's almost like he thinks Fernandes isn't getting the love he deserves there.
Exactly. Cole specifically mentions that at Manchester United, all he gets is shtick. And that's a really revealing part of his assessment. It's like he sees this disconnect between the effort Fernandes puts in on the pitch and the criticism that comes his way. It hints at a potentially negative environment, even though the player is giving it his all.
All he gets is stick.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong statement, especially from someone like Cole, who's been in those trenches, who knows the pressure of playing at the highest level in the Premier League. Makes you wonder if Fernandes is carrying the weight of the team's struggles on his shoulders and maybe not getting the recognition he deserves for the things he does well.
Yeah, that's the key layer to this whole thing, right? Cole isn't just pointing at United's lack of trophies. He's also suggesting that Fernandes might not feel valued or supported enough where he is.
Yeah.
A player might be okay with going through a period without winning a ton if they feel like the club and the fans have their back. But Cole's words definitely make you think that might not be the case for Fernandes. Now, the interesting thing is this Goal.com article, while laying out Cole's opinion, also mentions that Bruno Fernandes has actually been playing really well for Manchester United recently. Like, his form hasn't dipped or anything.
Right, that's a really important point to keep in mind. It's not like Fernandes is suddenly a shadow of his former self. The article even talks about his performance in the Leicester game, 2 assists and a goal. That's top-level stuff, the kind of output you expect from a world-class midfielder. It shows that even with the team's ups and downs, Fernandes is still delivering individually.
Absolutely. So, on one hand, you've got a Premier League legend saying Fernandes should jump ship because they're not winning enough and the fans are on his back. But on the other hand, this same player is putting in match-winning performances week in, week out. It really highlights that gap that can exist between individual brilliance and team success, and maybe even how a player is perceived within the club and among the fan base.
And what gets really interesting here is the message that's sort of hidden beneath the surface of Cole's statement. When someone with his experience comes out and says, a player like Fernandes needs to be in a trophy-winning environment, it goes beyond just career advice for one guy. It's almost like he's subtly questioning Manchester United's ability to actually compete at the highest level right now.
So we're not just talking about Bruno Fernandes' future here. Cole's opinion is almost like a little test, a way to see where Manchester United stand as a club. Is he basically saying that United as they are now just can't deliver on the ambitions of a player like Fernandes?
You could definitely interpret it that way. There's a sense of concern in Cole's words, a worry that Manchester United are missing those vital ingredients that let you compete for the biggest trophies year after year. And for a player like Fernandes, someone who's so driven and hungry to win, that could be a major factor in whether he stays or goes. If he's consistently performing at a high level, but the team isn't winning the big prizes, then it's totally understandable if he starts thinking about moving on to a place where that might happen.
It brings up that classic football dilemma, doesn't it? How much does a player value the history and prestige of a giant club like Manchester United, even when they're going through a rough patch, versus the very real temptation of guaranteed success and trophies at another club?
It's a tough choice every ambitious player has to face. For some, the opportunity to be part of a club's comeback story, to help them climb back to the top, to write their name in the history books, that's incredibly appealing. But for others, knowing that their playing days are limited and wanting to win the big stuff right now, that takes priority. And Joe Cole seems to think Bruno Fernandes might be leaning towards that second option.
Let's circle back to this idea of Fernandes getting stick for a minute. Playing for a club with the global reach of Manchester United comes with crazy levels of scrutiny. Every single thing you do on the pitch is analyzed. Every result is dissected, and when the team's not doing well, the big-name players, those guys who are expected to make things happen, they often become the targets for all the frustration and negativity.
No doubt about it. The spotlight at Old Trafford is intense, and when the team is underperforming, it's those creative, attacking players, the guys who are supposed to be the difference makers, who often get hit the hardest with the backlash from the fans and the media. It's the kind of pressure cooker environment that comes with playing for a club of that magnitude.
But is the criticism directed at Fernandes fair? I mean, the article we're looking at talks about his good form lately. It suggests he's still a major force in the team. Is it possible he's being unfairly singled out? Maybe he's become a symbol of the wider frustration surrounding the team's overall struggles.
That's a really tricky question. Without knowing what's going on inside the club and what the criticism actually looks like, it's hard to say for sure. But there is a tendency in football to scapegoat the creative attacking players when a team's not doing well, even if those players are still contributing. At a club like United, the expectations are so high that individual brilliance is often only measured by whether the team is winning trophies. And Cole's comment suggests he thinks Fernandes has been carrying a lot of that weight unfairly, and that he doesn't always get the credit he deserves when he's performing well on a personal level.
It definitely makes you wonder about the overall vibe within the club. If a player is consistently trying to perform at a high level, but feels like they're constantly facing negativity, it's bound to affect their morale and their desire to stay there long term.
Absolutely. Having a positive and supportive environment where players feel valued and their efforts are recognized, that's essential for any team to succeed. If Bruno Fernandes feels like he's constantly fighting against a wave of negativity, even though he's putting in the work and has been in good form lately, then Joe Cole's advice to find a more appreciative environment somewhere else starts to make a lot of sense.
Now, while we're focused on Joe Cole's take on Bruno Fernandes, we can't ignore the bigger picture at Manchester United. They haven't won a major trophy in a while, and there's been a lot of change and uncertainty at the club recently. The Goal.com article doesn't really go into detail about United's trophy drought, but it's definitely the elephant in the room, right? It's the underlying context that's shaping Cole's perspective.
For sure. Cole's opinion is directly tied to where Manchester United stand in the world of football right now and their struggles to consistently challenge for the top honors. He's seen Fernandes come in, inject creativity and quality into the team, become a crucial player, but ultimately not be part of a side that's consistently winning the big trophies. That lack of tangible success, combined with what he sees as the criticism Fernandes is facing, that's likely what's driving his suggestion that Fernandes should consider a move.
So just to recap for everyone listening, Joe Cole, a true Premier League legend, thinks Bruno Fernandes should leave Manchester United. His main reasons seem to be the club's ongoing struggle to win trophies, and the sense that Fernandes, all he gets is stick, despite being in good form and playing a major role for the team. Cole clearly sees Fernandes as a top talent who might be better off at a club that's winning things now and maybe has a more supportive environment.
Yeah, that's a spot-on summary of Cole's argument as it's presented in the Goal.com article. He basically views Fernandes as a world-class player whose best years might be wasted if he stays at Manchester United as things stand.
It definitely raises some interesting points to ponder, doesn't it? Is Joe Cole right? Is it time for a player with Bruno Fernandes' skill and ability to find a new club, a club that has a better chance of winning major trophies in the near future? Or should he stick with Manchester United and try to be a key part of their long-term rebuilding process?
At the end of the day, that's the question for you, our listeners, to grapple with. What matters more in today's game for a player like Fernandes? Is it the potential and the history of being part of a giant club like Manchester United, even if they're not winning trophies right now? Or is it the burning desire to win silverware and feel truly appreciated somewhere else?
It all comes down to that classic tension in football, loyalty versus ambition. In the modern game, where players' careers are relatively short and the hunger for winning is so intense, which one of those forces wins out? Joe Cole's very public opinion has definitely added a whole new layer to that ongoing debate.
It has. It forces us to think not just about the individual talent of a player like Bruno Fernandes, but also about the bigger dynamics of what a club is trying to achieve, the expectations of the fans, and that tricky balance between individual success and the success of the team as a whole.
Well, that wraps up another deep dive. We hope this has given you some food for thought about Joe Cole's perspective and the complicated situation Bruno Fernandes finds himself in at Manchester United. Big thanks to everyone for tuning in.
We'll be back soon with another in-depth look at the stories that are shaping the beautiful game. Until then, keep those footballing brains working.